If you love classic contemporary Christian music and the people that made it, please like this video and subscribe to our channel to help support us and keep us going. This is Stage Right, and I am your host, John Thorne. They say if you die with a handful of friends, you die a rich man. Well, I have several buses full, and I'm very excited to share them all with you. That song is called Time Keeps Rollin'. It's from John Schlitt's new solo album entitled Go. If you don't have a copy of that album, you need to go to johnwschlitt.com and order 10 copies and give 9 away for Christmas and keep 1 for your car. So it's just a fantastic album. And speaking of Time Keeps Rolling, I was watching a sunset earlier this year. Probably, I think it was the end of March. And I was thinking, okay, in January, everybody was excited about 2020 vision. It's going to be 2020 vision. And everybody had an idea of what that might mean. And then by, the third week of March, we actually thought the apocalypse was on us. And 3 weeks from then, we were going to all die. Things would be over. The world was dying and it was going to be game over. Well, I started thinking, okay, 2020, oh my gosh, that means I have been out of high school 40 years, which just doesn't even seem possible. So what do I have to show for the last 40 years? Well, I have my wife, who I love, and I've got 2 awesome kids that I love dearly. I have 1 fantastic son-in-law, and I have another fantastic son-in-law on the way, and I have a new grandbaby named Lily, who's just the best thing in the world. But beyond my family, what do I have to show for the last 40 years of my life? And I was thinking, well, I was in Christian music, so I didn't get rich off that. And not, any of my friends did either. So 40 years, it's a long time, but it went really fast, kind of sneaky fast. So 40 years. Okay, what do I have that means anything to me? And I don't collect cars and I don't, have super duper whatever interest in whatever. And I don't have the first ever Star Trek poster framed on my wall or anything like that. I don't really have anything that means that much to me in this earth, except, oh my gosh, it hit me. I have tons of friends. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do a show that focuses on who my friends are, not who they are, but who they are, if that makes any sense. Because, if you've listened to Christian music or read Christian books or listened to speakers or whatever, you'll recognize a lot of the people that I have on the show. But the point of having them on the show isn't their gifts. It's actually who they are inside and what makes them tick and the motivation behind why they've given their lives to spreading the gospel and giving their lives to, in some cases like John, over 50 years of being in music. A lot of people can't wait to retire and phone it in. And I've got friends that are in their 60s and 70s who are still out doing what they love to do. And I just wanted to do a show that focused on them. And actually, the one thing I think that's missing terribly in the world, but even in the church, sadly, is honor. And I don't think people understand what honor really is about. Honor, the reason God doesn't make us all the same is that when we stand across the room from each other, we can appreciate what he's doing in someone else's life. If we were all the same and we all got the same, it would be incredibly predictable and it would be incredibly boring. And the reason we have different lives and different gifts and different interests, and the reason some people are good at this, but other people aren't good at that, but they're good at something else, that's so we can appreciate God's goodness in other people and not just always make it about ourselves. So this is a chance for me to stand across the room from my friends and say to you, the audience, this is what makes this person special, and this is what makes this person unique. It's not just the fact that they are successful at making music or successful at selling books or successful at making movies, but they're actually really good people that had really good motives and they got really good at stuff and then later on became known for it. It was not the other way around. Now, you'll never hear these 6 words again. I wish I had a camera, because everyone that's got a smartphone has a camera. So you'll never hear those words again. But back when we were all touring and on the road and when we were doing what we were doing, it was rare that there was a camera around. And hardly ever was there a camera if there wasn't a fan asking for a photo. I've seen lots of people get their, pull their cameras out and get pictures taken with artists and with musicians. But when it's just musicians and artists, no one ever had a camera. My wife came in one day and said, "Hey, do you know why they call it a selfie?" And I said, "No, because I don't do selfies, just like I don't really pay attention to a lot of pop culture stuff." And I said, "No, I have no idea why do they call it a selfie?" And she said, "Because narcissisty is too hard to spell." And I thought that was actually very accurate and very funny all at the same time. So we will pretend that my show is a chance for you and I to stand with my friends and get a selfie for the first time ever, because actually there's a lot of them. I don't even have pictures taken with them because I just never really did that. I didn't do it a lot. And I certainly, all these years later, certainly didn't do it enough, because if I had it to do over, I would probably have some selfies of me and my friends. So anyways, before I bring John onto the show, I want you to hear a 20-second word from our sponsor.
Hey Rockstar provides digital marketing software and services to generate more leads, more exposure, and more revenue for your business or organization. Let Hey Rockstar amplify your awesomeness.
Amplify your awesomeness with Hey Rockstar. Man, what a great company. You got to check them out. It's digital marketing software, all kinds of marketing tools for the do-it-yourselfer, or if you don't do anything yourself, they do it for you. Check out heyrockstar.com. Very excited to be partnering with them on this podcast. I want to welcome one of my dearest friends to the show today. So everyone pull off the side of the road, get out of your car, and stand and cheer for the incomparable John Schlitt. All right, so I want to start with you at the very beginning. Was there a moment when you fell in love with music?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'd say so. Probably when I was, I'll be honest, probably 2 times. When I was 5 years old, and I was a kindergartner, and I got my first report card, and I was the only boy who had an S plus, which means I was perfect in music. And I thought that was pretty cool. And then let's go on for about 8 years later, I got my first guitar, and the band that I helped build went out and played their first show for a women's club. And that was actually very cool. I really liked it. The idea of working as a team and creating music was very fascinating to me, and it just got better as time went on.
So you did your first show when you were 5?
Yes, for my school play.
That is remarkable.
Well, yeah, but I'll tell you what, when I started the band, I wasn't planning on being the lead singer. I was planning on being a guitar player. But the problem was nobody else would sing. So I came from a little bitty town, and I didn't have a lot of options to work with. So I had good musicians, but the singer, we were all 12 and 13 years old, and there wasn't a lot of boldness there yet. So I had to sort of bite the bullet, and because I knew I could sing probably better than those guys could, I would be the lead singer. And so I played rhythm guitar and sang. And that's how I went through all of high school, doing, being the lead singer and the rhythm guitar player.
Right. Cool. That's amazing that you got started that young.
Well, you know what? When you look around at the people I've had a chance to play with and sing with, my gosh, there were people at 13 already recording recording albums. The fact that I came from a little town and that I was able to put together a band, I think looking back at it now was was fascinating. But again, I play with people that are geniuses, musical geniuses that were recording hits when they were 13. So I would love to say, yeah, I'm very unusual, but not any more than a lot of other people that I get a chance to be on the same stage with.
But that's so cool that you've been able to surround yourself with people like that. It's also it's you know how it is. No matter what room you are in, if there's people in the room better than you, it makes you better.
Well, absolutely. Well, I've been blessed in that way. I have been super blessed. I'll tell you, I've been part of two major bands, not to mention all the other musicians and producers, and you know, actually, I've been part of. Come to think of it, about five bands that have all been amazing.
Right.
The two major ones, the ones I spent my whole time with, were Headies for about 5 years in the secular world, and those guys were amazing. They were great musicians. Steve, the drummer, was a great singer in the low range, and Roger, the keyboard player, could do falsetto real good. So we always had fantastic three-part harmonies. Not to mention Mike and Dan could do a fair job of singing too. So we were a rock and singing band, which I always loved. And then I got a chance to be part of Petra. At that time when I joined them, they were the biggest Christian band in the world.
Right.
And it just went, and they were all amazing musicians. So it made me work. You know, I'm only a singer. So my job was go out and present the music the way it was supposed to be presented, and present it in reality. Be honest to the song. That was especially important with Petra, but it was also important with Head East. I mean, be honest with the song, deliver it. That's what a lead singer does when that's all he does. You know, when he's a front man, he better do that. He better be grabbing the crowd. He better be wanting to see that crowd happy, or he's not a lead singer.
Right. Okay, so before we move on from Head East, I know you've done a couple shows in the past couple years with them. How was that, getting reunited with them?
Very satisfying. When we left, I actually got fired from Head East because I was so messed up with cocaine and booze, which is funny. I mean, you have drug addicts firing drug addict because he's too drugged, you know. But apparently I was, and in the long run, it was an amazing thing. It was God's plan. But when I got fired, I wasn't too happy about it. So there was some raw relationships for a long time. And Dan, our bass player, died several years ago, and that sort of helped bring the bickering parties back together. And so it was real nice to be able to talk to everybody. You know, they were my brothers for 5, 6, 7 years, and they were. When you're a band and you're touring constantly and recording, and I mean, you're around them more than you're around your family. And at that time, I had 2 kids and a wife, but I saw them less than I saw the guys in the band. You know,
Right.
so it was really nice to get back and play with the 4 guys that were left in the band, and celebrate the anniversary of our first album, 50 years, which freaks me out. But it was 50 years anniversary. I want you to know I was very young when I recorded my first album. I just want you to know that. I was 11. Exactly. I told you, us 11 and 13-year-olds, we were amazing. So what can I say?
That is awesome. Hey, you know what I thought of this morning when I was getting ready for the call? You were at the beginning in Head East in the 70s. You were at the beginning of what was going to become the classic rock movement that would have huge impact on pop culture. And then in the 80s, you were at the front of the Christian rock movement when you were a part of Petra.
Yes.
What was that like in the 70s when you toured with all those great bands and got to hear those great musicians like Journey and Aerosmith and all of those bands? Styx,
Oh
yep,
yeah, it was.
REO.
You know what? I took it for granted. You know, it was competition. It was you know, your band, my band's better than your band type of thing. Or it wasn't that. I mean, when you're getting up to that level,
Yeah,
you know, there's a reason why all of them are on stage, and none of them disappointed you. And so you just wanted to make sure that your part of the show was just as good as everybody else's, and that, you know, as a frontman, like I said, the band, the musicians can hide behind their equipment if the crowd is slow. You
Right.
know, a singer has to grab that crowd and say, "Come on, come on." And so I was always very conscious of how the people reacted to all the bands. So um, not only did I appreciate them, they were my challenge. You know, each band that we played with was a challenge on making sure my band didn't
Right.
uh, come out second or look like that we didn't belong there. You know, although looking back at it now, we certainly did. Like I said, the musicianship and the songs and the just as I look, after 50 years, I can look back and listen to stuff. Go, dang, that was pretty good. So,
Right.
but man, we were also playing with ridiculous bands. I mean, we're talking, like you said, Journey, Foreigner, Styx, REO Speedwagon, although they were more competitive with each. We were all, that was hometown competition from Champaign on up to the stadiums. But it was quite a trip.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I will tell you though that after you do a musician's dream every day, day in and day out, it actually can get boring.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I fell into the temptations that I did. Because I mean, every night you're playing in front of 20,000 people, it's like, okay, been there, done that. Which is, I look back on it now going, I was so spoiled. I didn't know what a fantastic position I was in. It was just hindsight's 2020, and you look at it and go, man, that was actually pretty cool. And same thing with Petra. My gosh, we played in just about every major place you can all over the world, and it was just an exciting event, exciting lifestyle, an exciting opportunity. I remember Petra, we had a different challenge, and that was not only play great music, but bring across a message that's life-changing. And that message, if we don't do it right, they're gonna lose it. They're gonna lose the focus
Right.
and be more on us. It was a very, very fine line. I wanted their attention, but I wanted their attention so they could hear the message that could do life. And that, people say, well, it's real easy to be a Christian artist. No, it's not. If you are a true Christian artist, it is a whole lot easier being a secular artist.
Right.
And just go out and self-gratification, where as a Christian artist, you have an awesome responsibility that could be for eternity.
Right. What people don't understand when they go to a concert or a show at night is usually the lighting starts loading in about 7 o'clock. So about the time people are eating their breakfast to go to work, the day has begun. And for guys in the band, like you're a morning person.
Yeah.
So your day starts also at 7 or 8 in the morning. And you literally have almost 12 hours to sit around and just think and wait. So the 2 hours on stage is the only fun part of the day.
I have a hard time when I'm not on the road to not be lazy. You
Right.
condition yourself on the road to relax, take it easy, concentrate, learn songs better, think about what happened yesterday, but you're not being, for instance, I'm not a guy that would go over when we were overseas and tour all the local historic things, which my son-in-law, Dan, who
Right.
also traveled all the world, he is a seeker of every view you can get. He says, what do you think about that? Well, same hotel. Yeah. Yep. Paris, same hotel. London. Yep. Same hotel. Because that's where I would be, because I was resting to make sure that I was absolutely 100% ready for the stage.
Well, there's another component to it too that people might not understand. In my case, nobody's going to recognize the bass player, but in your case, everyone knew who you were. So if you tried to walk around and see things in Paris, you'd probably just get interrupted all day.
That can tend to be sort of a pain, yeah.
So, I mean, especially when you're just trying to relax, have a good time, and wait for the show that night.
Yeah, if you want to just you go, for instance, if I went out, it was to go buy snacks.
Right.
So I'd find the closest grocery store and buy my chocolate
and peanuts
and Diet Right Cola. That's what I would do. And sure enough, I'd put it in the bag and somebody goes, "You're you, aren't you?" And yeah. I hadn't taken a shower yet. I look like garbage. It's that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, can I get a picture? No, you can't. I don't want to look like this. No, but you always do.
Right. Well, thankfully for us, the bad pictures were taken before social media.
Well, yes and no, buddy. I mean, it's still happening.
Yeah.
I'm learning not to go outside for anything unless I've had a shower and I'm wearing decent clothes.
Oh, that's really funny. I remember we were on our way to Puerto Rico and we were sitting at the food court in the Atlanta airport. And it was right after the big show walked through the airport. You remember that night we were sitting there and that huge guy comes through there. I said, look down there. And this guy's head was at least 14 inches taller than the next tallest person in the airport.
Yeah.
And it was the big show. And right after he walked by, somebody walked up and interrupted our dinner and said, "Are you John Schlitt?" I mean, there was like 2 million people walking through. We're sitting there minding our own business, and some guy somehow glanced over and saw you.
Well, and praise God for it, because hopefully it means that he was listening to our stuff,
Right.
that it made a difference in his life. Isn't that cool?
Absolutely.
If he saw me and thought that was cool, all I can do is assume that he's listening to our material, and it's enriching him. So, yeah, and I praise God for that. I'm not one of those. Oh, leave me alone.
Right. No, you were always gracious with people.
Well, I realize that because of them, I'm where I'm at. Whenever Petra did a record or CD, although I can't say record now because they're coming back a little bit.
Yeah.
Whenever I did a CD, I felt that was just the beginning of the effort. You do a CD that is hopefully the best quality you can do with the best message you can bring.
Right.
But if nobody listens to it, it's pretty much nothing but self-gratification. So if someone starts listening to it, that's the next level.
Right.
And if someone enjoys it, takes it, and then starts letting their friends listen to it, then that's the total package.
Absolutely.
It's like, so whenever I meet someone, "Oh, you're John Schlitt," I just look at them as part of the team. And I do anymore. I say thank you. Hey guys, thank you for listening to us. I know that you've let friends listen to it, so we are a team. And I want to thank you as much as you're thanking me.
Well, it's funny because that's another thing. When you're younger, you don't realize that without a fan base, you can't sell any records, you can't make any money, you can't continue to do what you love to do. Back in the day when record companies were more involved in stuff, you could be disconnected a little bit from people. But now, I mean, fans are the only reason to make music.
Oh, yeah, well, and it was back then too. They were just, a lot of artists were just living a phony life.
Well, that's true. Yep.
They felt a whole lot more important than they really were.
Right.
And they got their rude awakening. I'm telling you, that's why you have a lot of flash in the pans, have a big hit and you're strutting around like a superstar, and the next thing you know, you're pumping gas because nobody cares.
Right.
What's funny? That shows you how old I am. There is no such thing as a gas station attendant anymore. I have to explain to the kids. Kids, there used to be gas station attendants. They would wipe your window, check your oil, and they had these pretty uniforms, and it was really cool. You sat in your car and somebody else pumped gas. That's a history lesson for you.
That's fantastic. Well, talking about albums and stuff, of all the albums you've made with Head East, Petra, Union of Sinners and Saints, all the different solo albums you have, do you have a favorite album?
Oh, that's not fair. Oh, my gosh.
Well, they're your kids, so you can pick one out and say that you love that one more.
Yeah, that's exactly. Okay, let me tell you, as I look through my life, I will say that there's probably some key records in my life. One, of course, would be the first album with Head East, Fly as a Pancake. It had a classic rocker on it, and it made Head East sort of a underground classic band. That one, our live album with Head East, I think that was a very good record. Then I go to Petra, and I'd say This Means War, On Fire, Beyond Belief, No Doubt.
No Doubt.
Oh, the Petra Praise 1 and 2. I mean, all of them had their purposes, but as far as momentum building, all those were important.
Right.
And then we go to Union Sinners Saints. Our first record is very unique, and it's but by this time we're in the who cares bracket, of the industry. But what's funny is we don't need the industry as much as we used to.
Right.
So it's a slower pace, and you handle it in a different way. And the Union Sinners Saints album, which was self-titled, it's a very a useful and professional record. And that's all I care about. If I'm on a record, I want it to be professional. I want it to be Christian. And then let's go to my solo stuff. Oh my gosh.
I don't think you haven't made a bad solo album. To me, your solo albums are every bit as good as anything else you've done.
They had to be, buddy. They represented me.
Wow.
I have no excuses. They're all me. I'm responsible for the whole thing. I'm responsible for the producers. I'm responsible for the songs. I'm responsible for the musicianship. And I will tell you that it's God. And God would open up the doors from shake to go. I mean, every situation was a little different, and every situation was super pro. I will say of my solo records, I'd say Shake for sure because it was the first one. I'd say Go, of course, my last one. I think it's amazing. And then maybe in between, maybe The Greater Cause.
Right.
Those three are heavy rockers. Now I have three others that are very unique in themselves. The Grafting was more of a family-related type of album, which needed to be done.
Unfit for Swine.
The Unfit for Swine was an attempt to be totally away from Petra and a unique, more modern sound, which was fun to do. And I think, again, that the skill of it was ridiculous, but the fan base at the time hated it. And the people I was trying to reach that weren't fans said, "We know who you are. We're not listening."
Well, dude, you reached me with Unfit for Swine.
Oh.
I remember seeing your showcase at GMA when Dan and David Huff and Jackie Street were playing for you.
Think about it. Some of the best musicians in the country.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Dude, that showcase is what made me want to do your tour.
Oh, praise God. Well, that showcase was a typical example of the kind of people God would put in my lap. And again, I have been blessed as a singer way past anything that would ever be deserved. So, and that was just a perfect example. For folks that don't know these names that John just mentioned, at that time they were probably the epitome of their positions, and that was the whole band. My showcase at that day at GMA were the best of the best in their positions. So it was like, wow. And why do I deserve that? Or why did God open that door? I still can't tell you, but I still look at that as a ridiculous blessing.
Man, it was an awesome time for sure. What a fun tour to do with you. So do you remember rehearsing for that tour?
I sure do. I remember
what?
You basically said, leave. And I've never had anybody tell me, leave, John. We'll get the songs, and then when we're ready, we'll have you come in. There's no reason why you should have to sit through us learning these songs. And I looked at you and I said, he is from heaven. He is an angel. If you all knew John, he doesn't look like an angel.
The funny thing about that, if you remember, we did 3 weeks without you in your basement, but you were on the other side of the glass from your studio, drywalling and renovating your basement. So you were 20 feet away. If we needed you, you'd stick your head in and say, "Can I listen?" And we'd be like, "No." Because I knew all it would do is create stress for you to listen to people play stuff wrong. So the point was, you're not going to hear them until they're playing it right.
And boy, you guys got it right. I tell you what, although that record was really not received by the industry, live-wise, that tour was pretty fun.
Oh, it was a blast. It was a blast.
You know what? That was actually the makings of the next lineup of Petra. It was a very unique time for me at that moment. It was right after the No Doubt tour.
Was it right after the Saltbox tour?
Yes, the Saltbox tour. Absolutely. Where two of the best-known Christian rock bands in the history of music played together and nobody knew it.
That's right.
God.
Hey, I have a question for you about that tour.
Okay.
Now, this is going to be something probably no one is even conscious of. Do you remember who the bass player was for Petra the first night in Gainesville, Georgia on the Saltbox tour?
You.
Do you remember why?
Because Ronnie was having a baby.
Ronnie's wife was having a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So I filled in for Ronnie the first show of the Saltbox tour.
Yeah, you sure did.
Which is crazy because it's something I almost don't even remember, but it was so fun. It was a blast.
I love it. And you played the part well, buddy. You played the part well. We didn't skip a beat.
Nope.
You jumped around. You jumped around as freaky as he did. So it's cool.
Ronnie was a great bass player, so it was an honor that he asked me to do it.
Well, we appreciate it too because it was like, oh come on, not now. This is the first show, yeah. But babies come first. What can I say?
Babies come first. Right on.
Yep.
So we became friends, hung out a lot on the Saltbox tour, and then when that was over, you hired me and you told me that you wanted me to get the new guys in your solo band ready for Petra because Pete and Kevin were going to be joining Petra 6 or 8 months down the road, and they were both pretty new and pretty green.
Yep.
So
Yep, I sure remember that. And I'll tell you what, and you did a great job. Man, well, because of Saltbox tour, buddy, that's where we met. You became a lifelong friend. I mean, really. I mean, you went through my ups and downs with the Unfit for Swine tour and tried to grow these kids up, which was hard to do.
Oh, it was fun though. It was fun. All of it was fun, even though it was hard. It was fun.
Yeah, many times I wanted to kill him, and you go, John.
Well, that was the thing. It's like all I tried to do for you was alleviate the stress and the worry of being who you were, which was responsible for the whole thing.
Yeah, and it was very much appreciated. And you know what? And then right after that tour, after the Unfit for Swine tour, that's when I pretty much put the foot down and said, okay, things have to change with Petra. And that's when the whole lineup changed. I think, was that God Fixation was the next record that no, it was Petra Praise 2 that came in.
Well, we did I road managed the Petra Praise 2 tour. So that was the first year with Kevin and Pete. Then the next album, the next year, I think is when you did God Fixation.
Exactly. But the first year that was a whirlwind. And I had more after the No Doubt tour, which was, and part of that was Saltbox. When I say the No Doubt tour, it went through Saltbox, it went through International. It was the first time that we were in South America, and that was a whirlwind. And so South and Central America actually. And so after that was done, I was sensing that there was things not right, and they had to be changed. And again, that's when God put Pete and Kevin and Lonnie and those guys together, and you, and we created a whole new lineup, and it was fresh and scary, but it was I think a whole new shot in the arm. It was a whole lot. It was fun. I enjoyed it a lot, actually.
Yeah, it was a blast. It was a great time for sure.
Yeah.
I want to get back to Petra and the Saltbox tour and the solo band. I want to get to some stories real quick. But before I do that, how long have you sang in the J Secular band?
Not long enough.
Not long enough.
I love it.
That's awesome.
That's probably that right now. And please understand, I'm working with a lot of other amazing situations right now with my solo and with the Legends of Rock, and J Secular band is sort of I come back home to, you know. And I've got 6 or 7 guys on stage with me, and they're all great.
That's awesome.
They're first of all, they're great hangs, including Jay. They're good music. I won't say all of them are great, but they're all good. And then there's some great in there. And because of that, oh my gosh, we're a copy band. We're a copy band with original material.
So you get to pick the songs that you love and want to play.
Yes, I get to play songs that I used to love to listen to. I used to watch the artists play them live and go, oh man, that's great. That's good stuff. And it's just fun. It's one of those things where you just look around going, man, these guys are good. And it's the same thing as with Petra and Hades. It was just, once again, I'm with a ridiculous group of guys that, and we get to do something that is useful today.
Right.
But that's not shortchanging the fact that I'm with Billy Smiley and we're doing Union Sitters and Saints.
Right.
Probably never enough. We do a thing called Storyteller Tour with Jason Fowler, Billy, and I. And it's more an acoustic rock type of thing, which is very unusual, but it gets us to places where a band couldn't go, but people are looking for that fun evening. So we're doing that. Like I said, I'm doing the Legends of Rock thing with John Elfonte and that's more the secular side of things for me. And yes, I do some secular things now because God has showed me that that was part of my life at the time, and opportunities will come in those venues just like they do in the Christian side. So it's just a lot of doors are opening, and as long as God allows me to have a voice and my health, I'm going to stay busy. Praise God.
Right on. So last time we had lunch at the old Chinese buffet down the road from your house, we were actually talking about how busy you were. You were telling me all the bands you're singing in, all the projects you were part of, all the dates you had lined up. Now, this was pre-COVID, but
Hmm.
I said to you, do you know why your voice is held up after all these years? Do you remember what I said?
You probably said because God has a plan, knowing you.
Well, it has to do
But
with
I
you
don't-
following God's plan for
is that
sure.
what you said?
But it was that you've never stopped singing,
Yes.
that your voice is held up
Yep.
because you didn't take 10 years off
Yes.
and then decide you wanted to go back out.
Yep.
You've got the same voice you had when you were 50.
Which was actually pretty unique at that time. Yeah, I agree, buddy. Which again we give credit to God for.
Right.
I'll be honest. Right now, this COVID thing, I haven't been worried about the disease. I've been worried about not staying in shape because I'm not very disciplined, and it's not like I go in my room and sing to the pictures. It just doesn't work for
Right.
me. I'm too busy building something.
So when you're not singing, you're still working. You're just working on somebody's house.
If you aren't busy, there's only so much time in your life.
Right.
And whether people realize it or not, a lifetime for a human isn't really that long. So, as far as I'm concerned, and so you try to maximize it as much as you can. So when you face Christ, he goes, "Good job. You
Right.
didn't waste much time, did you?"
Right.
And that covers a lot of things, buddy. That covers father responsibility, brother responsibility, husband responsibility, singer responsibility, both Christian and secular. It covered up grandpa responsibility. It's all those hats you wear. God is going to question you all, not question. He's gonna bring up what you did right and what you did wrong.
Right. He's got it figured out. We'll just go along with the plan.
Yeah, what I mean is, I'll find out. I'm not
Yep.
gonna figure it out. I'll find out. God will let me know.
Right on. Okay, so I just want to run down memory lane here for a second.
Of all the people I know, you can do that.
I don't forget much, do I?
No, but you've been around me actually longer than different key locations.
Right.
So, yep, go for it, buddy.
Okay, so we'll just give me the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
The jet ski in Texas.
Oh, buddy. Okay, yeah. We had a fantastic promoter in Texas who had 4 or 5 jet skis. Like I said, I normally don't go out and party. I don't go out during the day
Yep.
because I rest and wait for the show. Well, when I heard jet skis, I'm going, I really like water. So I jumped on
Yep.
one. Pete jumped on another, and we're both nuts. And so Pete and I are.
And I was about 50 yards behind you guys.
Yeah, you were behind. I just remember Pete because he's the one that ran over me. And Pete is, if you knew Pete, I was right in front of him, and I was doing exactly what they told me not to do. And that was, I was swerving to splash him, and I swerved just a hair much. And I mean, I was going like 35, 40 miles an hour.
I
And
know.
all of a sudden, that jet ski cut in the water, and I stopped right in front of Pete. And he ran over me.
Yep. Pete went flying over you. It's a miracle from heaven you weren't decapitated.
Yeah, I totally agree. I saw it coming. I jumped to the side, and it caught my leg. And my leg
Yep.
wasn't broken. It's a good thing I had long pants for that stage that night because I had a softball-sized
Not.
blood clot thing on my leg, and it stayed there for years. And I actually had to have vein operations on it later because it totally weakened that area, and it was disgusting to look at. So I finally had to do that vein operation thing for it. So that was not one of my brighter spots. I will say it was really a lot of fun until that happened.
I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm the one that told him that he should go jet skiing.
And I'm the one who said, I can't believe I went against my normal. Was I stupid?
Okay, now to put a bow on this story, Do you remember what you said when I pulled up next to you and you were laying in the water?
No. What?
You looked at me and said, "This is all your fault."
Okay, all right. I'll go with that.
I felt so bad but I couldn't stop laughing because it hit me so funny that you were like, it's like I thought this was Pete's fault.
No, it's your fault. You know what? I was in the water and I was wondering when I was going to find out if my leg was still there. I mean,
Oh, I know.
it was like that. We have a jet. It basically pinched between two jet skis colliding at 35 miles an hour or 40.
Yeah.
I figured they cut my leg off, and I'm just too stupid to know it yet. So when I finally reached down, it was still there. But oh boy, did that blood clot grow fast. Woo!
It was like I couldn't believe how big it was, and that it was your leg. I couldn't believe your leg wasn't broken with that knot as big as it was on the front of your leg.
No, like it was like, well, I'm walking. I can walk. It's just really ugly.
Well, luckily, the promoter's husband was a doctor.
Yes.
So when we got back to shore,
and his assistant was an EMP.
we got back to shore, he was able to check you out.
Yeah, he goes, well, yeah, you just got just got a broken blood vessel. There's no problem going. It looks bad. I mean, come on.
It feels bad.
Yeah, it looks like my leg was torn off. Well, and basically they're going, they're looking at the jet ski that's damaged, of course. The rearview mirror is ripped off, and the other one, I don't know if it was leaking. I just felt bad. They were such generous people.
Yeah.
And there was no way I wasn't going to do a show. I don't care if I had to go out with crutches because I deserved everything I got. But again, like you said, it's one of those things where the crowd that's there gets one time to see us. If it was important enough to come and see us, they better see the best I can give. And hopefully that's on the stool wasn't too distracting, because I did have a bunch of other very lively fanatics on the stage too. So it was probably okay.
Right. Okay, so next memory.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the story about the moose in Newfoundland? All right, let me tell this one.
Okay.
All right, from my perspective.
Okay.
So we fly all day from where we were to get to Newfoundland, and we get to Newfoundland at like 11 o'clock at night. The promoter picks us up in cars. So there's like two people. They had like 5 cars. So there was 2 people in every car. So it was me and you in our car, and we had to drive 3.5 hours around the island to get to the town where Petra was playing the next day. So by 12:30, you're just wanting to go to bed because you've been up since probably 4 or 5 that morning.
Yep.
We're driving, and it's starting to get foggy, and it looked like it was going to rain, but it didn't. And then all of a sudden, about an hour from the airport, we start getting into these wooded areas out in the country, and the driver starts slowing down. And I said, "Why are you slowing down?" He said, "Well, we have to be careful because there's moose here." And I went, "Oh, no way."
Yeah.
Well, I'd never seen herds of moose just wandering on the side of the road. So like we come up to a moose and he'd slow down. And I'm like, "Dude, check this out. This is so awesome. Check this moose out." And you were in the back seat. You're like, "Yeah, that's great." So after like the 3rd or 4th time, I'm like, "John, oh my God, there's like 5 moose. Look at them. They're right there on the side of the road. This is so cool." And you said, "For the love of God, I just want to go to bed. I've seen moose. I lived in Utah. Just get me to bed." That was one of the funniest things. It was like 1:30 in the morning by that point, and you were just over the moose.
I had seen moose, and I saw a lot of creatures in Utah. It was like, and the bed was a whole lot more important to me at the time. Remember, I have a duty to do. I got to do a show the next day.
That's right.
It means we're going too slow.
You, more than anyone I know, were all about the show. That was why you were wherever you were. That's one thing about you. You're a pro's pro when it comes to that.
Thank you, buddy. I just know that that's a responsibility that God, I see touring as a job because I'm away from my family. That's like I said, I sang in Paris. Well, who cares? It's another hotel room. Because to me, that's what it was. I never went out. Because
right.
if my kids and my wife couldn't see it, I just didn't feel like. And again, it was my responsibility to be at my peak for the show. That's just how I always was.
Speaking of being ready for the show, do you
Okay.
remember the night we flew into Kansas on this little, and then had to fly from the main airport in Kansas City on a little 8-10 seat plane with wind and lightning, and
Hmm.
so we get to this tent revival, and you sing your songs,
Oh yeah.
and I was there to road manage you and run sound. So when you get done, you sit down, and the evangelist gets up to preach. It's like youth night at this week-long revival. So the evangelist calls you up on stage. He's interviewing you and wanting to make it relevant for kids. So he said to you, he said,
Hmm.
"So, John, growing up in school, did anyone ever make
Hmm.
fun of you, or did you ever have any problems with peer pressure?" And your immediate response was, "Well, with a name like Schlitt, you can imagine what I got called." And the whole tent revival, there's like 2,000 people in this huge tent, and they all died laughing. And it caught the guy so off guard. He didn't really know how to
Well, that's what
respond
he
to it.
that's what he gets for playing with fire, you know.
That's right. Now the other memory I want to run by you before we move on.
Okay.
Puerto Rico. You and I flew to Puerto Rico.
Which time? Which time?
Well, the time that Todd White had booked this concert where they had a local band that was going to play for you, and I was going to play bass and be the band director.
Oh my gosh. Okay, those kind of dates are scary. Okay, I praise God. I think I've forgotten it just because I needed to. But go ahead.
Well, actually, this was the only time in my life I've heard where this thing actually turned out. So we get down there, and I'm going to
Okay.
rehearse with the guys a day early.
Uh huh.
And we go in to rehearse with
Hmm.
this band. And of course, you're at the hotel because just like at your house, I didn't want you to hear anything until I knew if it was
And
going to
that
be
was
good enough.
truly in those situations. That's even more of a blessing than the one before. Trust me.
So I go in, and surprisingly, the band was really good. Now,
Oh.
really good for that situation. I was shocked that, oh, okay, these guys really can play and they know the songs. Well, then I felt bad because I let the bass player play a couple songs, and he was good. And they were actually a band that played together all the time. So I didn't want the guy to feel left
Uh huh.
out. So I came to you when you got to
Okay.
when you came over to do sound check. I went up to you and said, "Dude, are you okay if I let this guy play bass tonight? He's actually as good as everybody else. They know the songs."
I think I remember.
And that way I'll just run sound,
Yeah.
and he doesn't feel left out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he was so disappointed. He was the only one that wasn't going to get to play for you, and I didn't want the one guy to be left out. But it actually went good.
Well, you know what? You've always been somebody that watched out. So if
Yeah.
you said he was good, but he's good. It was cool, and we needed a good sound man anyway because you knew what to look for.
Well, I just knew turn John up. Make sure John's louder than everything else.
Exactly, but not too much past the music. I when I do tracks, man, the hardest part is to tell them,
Right.
think rock mix, turn me
Right.
down, don't let me outshine the band, because then I stick out like a sore thumb and I oversing.
Well, then you sound like you're on Christian radio.
Exactly, with that, then I tense up and I blow my throat out after about 3 songs. I'm trying to figure out why aren't I a better pro than this. A mix is pretty important for a singer.
As a singer, your monitor mix is everything. Absolutely. Guitars and basses use tuners, drums even tune.
Yeah.
As a singer, if you don't have a
Yep.
good monitor mix, you cannot sing in pitch and you'll blow your voice out. So I want to move on to some questions from listeners. But before I do, I got to run one more thing by you. So for years, every time we would go to lunch, we'd go to the fajita place down the road from your house. Then about 5 years ago, when I would come down and we'd go to lunch, all of a sudden you started taking me to a Chinese buffet. I'm curious, how did that transformation happen?
Well, I haven't lost my fajita touch. Trust me. I get my fajita dose about once every 2 weeks.
That's awesome.
And the Oriental was something that I discovered that here's what happens with me with fajitas. They taste amazing when I'm eating them, and they taste amazing when I leave. The taste
Right.
is still there, and I enjoy it for a lot longer than just the time I'm eating it.
Right.
And that's the same thing with a buffet. Now notice I said a buffet. Not,
Right.
I'm not real big Oriental restaurant person because I like to make choices on my own and put as much on the plate as I want.
Right.
And I may feel in the mood for this one day and mood for that another day. I don't like to. I'm not a real Oriental restaurant person. I'm an Oriental buffet person.
Buffets and choices are good.
Amen. Amen.
Okay, so tell our listeners, what is your process for writing songs?
Whatever God allows me to have. I mean, it can be anything. I could have an idea and write down words. Although that's usually not with me. Music is more my. I need to hear a hook line musically, or a chord change, or that kind of thing, and I can go any direction. I could write the chorus first, and then the verses, or write verses and then the chorus finds itself. But I usually wrap myself around music. I need a good tune that I'm excited about, that strikes an interest in me, and at that time, it's not just that simple. I need to have usually I write when I know I have a record to do or a CD to do, and I have a thought about what direction I want to go with that CD.
Right.
So I try to give a common denominator to all the songs of that record, although you don't let it stifle a thought that comes out just out of the blue. You just carry it. So I don't know if I've done a very good job of answering this question. It's just, it's up in the air. It's up in the air. It's whatever strikes a productive chord in me, and that's how I get going.
Well, when you collaborate too, it probably depends on who you're writing with.
Oh gosh, yes, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, I don't think I'll ever I don't know if I'll ever write another song by myself.
Oh wow!
Because the collaboration, man, this record, the Go record, absolutely is one of the best records I've ever done, and it was the most fun because I got to write with everybody I wrote with were amazing. It was amazing input, and that's one of the reasons why I think this record is as good as it is. And just to be part of each of these songs is a total blessing. So why should I try to carry the load when I got these ridiculous writers that want to write with me? So as long as I've got folks that want to write with me,
absolutely,
that's the way to go.
It is a great album. In fact, everyone listening should buy 5 copies and give 4 away for Christmas. It's so good.
Well, thank you, buddy. And you know what? I won't argue with that. And I can say that because I was only part of it.
Right.
I was only part of it.
Right. All right. So I want to give you a few questions here real quick.
Okay.
Rapid fire. This is the final Jeopardy for some questions from some listeners.
Oh, cool.
Do you ever watch yourself on YouTube?
I try not to, no. I do not like to watch myself on YouTube.
Okay. Have you ever stopped and reflected on the impact that you've had on the body of Christ?
Once in a while. Only when somebody makes a big deal about it. And I realize that they're not, just blowing smoke.
Right.
And usually after that, I'll have a lonely time. I'll be in my hotel room and I'll think about it, and that is a little humbling.
Well, the impact is tremendous, and for so long. To me, you're on the Mount Rushmore of contemporary Christian music. It's you, Russ Taff, probably Michael W., and Amy.
Wow. That's mighty amazing company, buddy. Thank you. I think there'd be a lot of people who disagree with you, but I appreciate your thoughts.
Well, if I went with For Him, that would take up the whole mountain, so nobody else would be on it.
And they deserve it too. You're
hey,
right.
Which reminds me, you've been an actor. Weren't you in a For Him video in the early 90s?
I sure was. Had a big old cigar in my mouth, and it was actually smoking, and I almost passed out.
Wasn't that song Roller Coaster Ride?
I think it was, yeah, about the card playing and that was fun. I had fun with that, and like I said, that cigar just freaked me out.
I actually talked to Kirk last week. He's going to be on the show in a couple weeks.
Oh, good. Tell him I said hi. I appreciate those guys. Those guys are good people.
Yeah, they sure are. Okay, one more question.
Go for it.
This is the last one from the listeners. Do you have a favorite song that you've written in your life?
Oh, boy. No, I'm very pleased with a lot of them. I can name 10 maybe, if just to be fair. Wake the Dead, Inside of You, Go, Feel It, Just Reach Out.
It goes on and on.
Yeah. Even One Against the Other with Head East way back when. Oh, yeah. Guys, I've been doing this for like 40, 50 years. And so there's a lot of songs. Come on.
Narrow it down to just one, John.
Yeah, I can't. I love all my kids. Come on.
Okay, so everything we've just talked about in the 93 minutes of your life I've taken up on this phone call was to get us to this point.
Okay.
What are you doing with John Schlitt Ministries?
Oh, thank you, buddy. Actually, John Schlitt Ministries has officially been changed to Build It Ministries. That's BLD/IT. And at this moment, I am working on a lady's house who was a go-getter. She was an entrepreneur, had her own business, still does, but got sick for for years. And it got to a point where the last 3 years of her life, she almost became a close-in, and I didn't realize it until I came. She needed to borrow an air conditioning unit, a window air conditioning unit. I'm going, why? You got it. But anyway, I went there and realized that she basically was in bad shape. So I said, John Schlitt Ministries has a vision here, and this is what we're gonna do. And so for believe it or not, it's been the last year and a half with me touring and all that, and a lot of the stuff I'm doing myself to make the dollar that's donated a whole lot more efficient. But we're getting to a point now where she has a new heating and air conditioning unit for her house, new stove and dishwasher, new hot water heater. That's the inside of the house.
Oh, that's awesome.
Redid the back deck for her to make it a 2-story, to where she could get up to the top. And the top of her house used to be a small apartment. And so now I'm in that stage now where that upstairs is now becoming an apartment again. So she will be able to have an income to get back on her feet and be that entrepreneur that she normally is.
Oh, that's awesome.
In other words, I just, it's one of those things God's put in my heart, and I'm very excited about it. I'll be excited when it's done. I'll be honest. A year and a half was a little longer than I thought it was supposed to be, but doors keep opening, and I kept saying, okay, you need to do it. We need to do that. And when it's done, I think she's going to be in a lot better shape. And then I'm anxious to find out what the next thing is. John Schlitt Ministries which is now Build It Ministries, was originally designed to go out and do free concerts. The ministry would pay for the concert, and whoever threw the concert would charge tickets, and then all that ticket money would go to a local need, like a family that needed a new roof, a church that needed a new roof, a new bathroom or something. And that was the vision I originally had, and no one else saw the vision. So the ministry has sort of been not struggling, but sort of searching for what the value would be. And praise God, for the last year and a half, I've seen a new value, and that's why we changed the name to Build It. And because Build It is still building, it can build a church. It can build. It can be anything. It can build your confidence. It can build your faith, your walk. It can build. So I'm open now to not quite so specific, but more general.
Right. That's awesome. Now, is there a place people can go to donate to Build It?
Oh, absolutely. And it'll still be under John Schlitt Ministries. I'm right in the middle of changing things. But, just go to johnschlittministries.org or .com.
johnschlittministries.org or .com.
Yeah, and that would be wonderful. And if you can't find it there, please go to johnwschlitt.com, and it'll direct you there also. And that's wonderful. But thank you for mentioning that. I don't talk a lot about that because I don't know how to ask for money.
You are more than welcome, because as soon as my air conditioner kicks off, I'll wrap this up.
Well,
I don't know if you heard that or not.
I didn't hear it, but if you need a new air conditioner, as soon as I get done with this project, if you want, Of course, you live it up in Michigan. You don't need air conditioning. Come on.
Pretty soon we're going to need lots of firewood. So if the listeners want to buy any of the John Schlitt albums, go to johnwschlitt.com and buy 10 copies of every one.
Yes, absolutely, and give them for Christmas, which also, please remember, I have a Christmas album that's probably just exactly what I've always wanted as far as Christian music, and you'll see what I'm talking about when you listen to it. It's called the Christmas Project, and I think it's not sit around the campfire and sing Kumbaya, but also it's not rock around the block
Right.
with Santa Claus either. So it's very respectful to the Christmas spirit,
Right.
but it is me doing it, so you can pretty much tell what that's going to be.
There's a reason you're who you are, John, and I wanted everyone to know what those reasons are. And it's been a pleasure. I cannot thank you enough for helping me launch my show, and I'm honored to call you my friend.
Oh, buddy, same here, my friend. And listen, and this is just the beginning, buddy.
Yep.
You know too many people that I think will be very interesting to talk with, and thank you for considering me as a one of the first.
Yep, you were the first, and please give Dorla a hug for me.
I will, buddy.
We will hit the Chinese buffet as soon as I get back to Nashville.
I love it. Or if you move for Mexican, I'm still there too, buddy. We've got a fantastic Mexican restaurant. Trust me.
That's right, you do. All right, buddy. Well, you have a fantastic day, and everyone go out and buy his album and donate to his ministry.
Thank you, John. God bless you, buddy.
All right, buddy. Have a good day. I'll talk to you soon.
You got it.
Hey Rockstar provides digital marketing software and services for your church to generate more interest, create more exposure, and reach more people. Let Hey Rockstar amplify the awesomeness of your ministry. And, as always, Hey Rockstar is a proud sponsor of the Stage Right with John Thorne podcast.
Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. I hope to see you next Thursday at 12 noon. Don't forget to like us and share us. Tell your friends about us. Have a great weekend. We will see you next week.